Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I'm back. I know. I've been gone for a hot minute. I missed you, and I hope you missed me too. I also hope you're staying safe and healthy from this awful COVID virus. So far, my loved ones and I have been well, but we're very careful to mask up when we go out and we practice social distancing, so I'm sure that helps. I want to apologize for being gone so long, as well as to thank you all for sticking with me. I actually picked up subscribers even while I was gone. So thank you to all of you who have been here and to all of my new subscribers as well. So where have I been? Well, my computer suddenly died shortly after my last video. I tried to use my backup, but my broadcasting software wouldn't work on that computer. So I dropped my computer off for repair, but when I got it back weeks later, the sound still wasn't working right for recordings. I actually went back to listen to my last video to see where I left off and noticed sound problems on that one, so if you noticed that too, I apologize. Anyway, I was just going to buy a new computer, but my nephew's really good with computers and he wanted to see if he could fix it first. So I promised him I'd wait. But he's a nurse and he treats COVID patients, so he wanted to wait until he thought it was safe to come around us, which took forever. But it's fixed now and I'm back in business. Plus, I got to see him and squish him because I missed him. I know I could have used my phone to record, but I'm not really big on being on camera. I'll explain a little bit about that later, but I'm working on it. I really missed making videos though and talking to everybody in the comments. I'm really going to try to get back to making videos regularly. So before I get into today's story, which is so incredibly heartbreaking and tragic, I want to dedicate this video to the memory of precious 5-year-old Cannon Hinnant. You may have heard his story already, but according to so many comments on social media, it isn't being reported very much by the mainstream media. I know people have tried to draw attention to it on social media, but I read that Cannon's grandmother wants more attention on his story, so I decided to cover it. He deserves to have his story told. He was just 5 years old, playing in his front yard, and he was murdered. I know I'm a little late with this one, but I day trade all week online with a group of former Wall Street hedge fund traders, so by the time the market closes every day, my brain is pretty much mush, and I really wanted to study Cannon's story and give it the time it deserved before I made a video. This is Cannon's story. According to Cannon's father, Austin Hinnant, Cannon was outside riding his bike in front of his home in Wilson, North Carolina last Sunday, August 9th, when the neighbor next door, 25-year-old Darius Sessoms, approached him with a gun and shot little Cannon in the head, killing him. Cannon's father said he heard the shot and went outside to find Cannon on the ground. He said he initially thought he fell off his bike, but when he went to help him up, he knew it was much worse. He said as he screamed for help, he saw his neighbor pacing back and forth with a gun in his hand. Another neighbor ran to render first aid to Cannon while they waited for the ambulance to arrive, and Cannon's 2 sisters witnessed the whole thing. Precious Cannon did not survive the shooting and was pronounced dead shortly after. According to ABC News, police have yet to determine a motive for the shooting, but they say it was not random. Cannon's father stated that they had been neighbors for 8 years and were always cordial with one another. As if this story isn't bad enough, Austin Hinnant said he had just invited his neighbor over for dinner the night before because they had extra food and saw Sessom sitting in his car all alone. They were trying to be kind to someone who looked like he needed it, and they paid the ultimate price for it. Cannon's father said he was a loving child who befriended everyone. He was innocent. He was riding his bike, just being a little boy, and because of the evil within someone he barely knew, he is now gone. His father did an interview with ABC News stating that there are many rumors going around about why Sessoms did it, but he said he knows the truth about why Sessoms did it, but did not elaborate any further. He said he wants to see if it will come out during Sessom's trial or not. That statement was unsettling to me. Not that the whole tragedy isn't, but when he said he knows, that really struck me. Police arrested Sessoms the following day and charged him with first-degree murder. According to USA Today, Sessoms has a court date scheduled for August 25th, and he is being held in the Wilson County Jail without bond. Apparently, at his first hearing last Tuesday, Sessoms told the judge that he would be hiring an attorney as opposed to using a public defender. Sounds to me like he might be gearing up to plead temporary insanity, and he wants an attorney who will fight like hell to prove his case. Otherwise, he's just wasting his money. He shot little Cannon out in the open, in front of witnesses. Cannon's father said he saw him with a gun right after the shooting, and he fled the scene. There's no question as to whether or not he was the shooter, so he doesn't need an attorney to try to prove reasonable doubt. There isn't any. All any defense attorney can do for him at this point is to make sure he receives a fair trial, and any public defender can do that, unless he's stupid enough to believe that an attorney can actually get him off at this point. Maybe he is. But if he suffers from any sort of mental illness, he might think temporary insanity is his golden ticket. According to Cannon's father, Sessoms was acting paranoid during dinner and alluded to the idea that people were trying to set him up. Just between you and me, I wish he never would have said that publicly. I know he's not in his right mind right now, and he isn't thinking clearly because he's in so much pain. But I'd hate to see him help Sessom's case with this information. I wish he would have kept it to himself, like he's keeping the reason why Sessoms did it to himself. Because in my opinion, and only in my opinion, and in a perfect justice system, he wouldn't get to use the insanity defense for murdering an innocent human being. I don't care what your circumstances are, your mitigating factors, your other bullshit. I don't care. You took an innocent life. I don't care if you can prove you didn't know right from wrong. I have no mercy for any of it. You take an innocent life, you need to be removed from society, period. Now I know you're all intelligent beings and you understand what I'm saying. So I don't expect any of you to come for me in the comments with acting in self-defense or anything like that. Of course I don't mean those cases, because if you're defending yourself from an attacker or an abuser, they're not innocent in my eyes, nor should they be considered innocent in the eyes of the law. And yes, I realize I just opened a can of worms because there are 1,000 scenarios that can be inserted here, including lying about being attacked, etc. But you all know what I mean. So I won't be debating each scenario in the comments. Now, I will tell you that I would fully support a temporary insanity defense if the story had played out differently, and Cannon's father wrestled the gun from Sessoms and shot him for shooting his son. Because to me, that's what it's for. Now, you want to debate me in the comments, come at me with that. Tell me that you would disagree with Cannon's father's right to plead temporary insanity after shooting and or killing his son's murderer in the heat of the moment after his son is killed, and you and I will fight like hell. Why? Because then it would be legit. It would be real, undeniable. We disagree about a lot as a nation, but I believe you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who couldn't understand that. And good luck finding a jury that won't understand it either. Well, unless, of course, you get the jury we had in the Casey Anthony case. That jury didn't really understand much, so I stand corrected. You would find one jury that won't understand. And because I'm operating under the assumption that I'm speaking to intellectuals, I also know that you won't turn this into a racial thing. I understand that is where the narrative is going on social media, and I get it. But Cannon's family has stated that they don't believe Cannon's murder was racially motivated, and I think we need to respect that until we find out otherwise. Why? Because not everything is racially motivated. Many things are, yes, but not everything. And deciding that precious little Cannon lost his life in a racially motivated hate crime before we know if race had anything to do with it doesn't solve anything. What we can decide before we know anything is that it was the result of pure evil. That I think we can all agree on. Unless you don't believe that people can be evil, then I don't know what to tell you. But if people weren't evil, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel because I wouldn't have all these stories to share with you. I almost did a story about a man who killed a Burger King employee because his order took too long. Or a story about a man who killed the receptionist at his father's doctor's office in New Jersey because he couldn't get his father the appointment he wanted. Or the story of the 3 friends who went fishing in Florida and were brutally murdered because one of them stopped at the dollar store to get something to drink and told the cashier where he was going fishing while 3 people in line behind him planned on following him and killing him. You know, for kicks on a Friday night. After all, what else is there to do? I may still do that one. Before I continue, I just want to say that if you happen to be on the jury in the Casey Anthony case and you're offended by my earlier comments about your ineptitude, I'm not sorry. You deserved everything you got after that verdict and then some. I get that you got played by the defense, but the fact that none of you saw it coming a mile away disappoints me. They were brilliant. I'll give them that. But I gotta know how you didn't know what they were doing after they kept changing the story to throw you off. I don't want to know. I gotta know. So if you were a juror in the Casey Anthony case, please contact me in the comments. You can tear into me for the inept comment if you want. I'll allow it. As long as you follow up with, "This is what really happened." I won't make any more rude comments. I'll just thank you, and I won't make a YouTube video about it. I promise. And don't think you can fool me that you sat on the jury when you didn't, because I'm going to test that right off the bat. Okay, back to evil. In my mind, there's no more accurate way to describe someone who could hurt or kill an innocent child. Stories involving children are always the hardest for me to do, but I do them because they need to be told. Too many children are victims of horrific crimes, and as much as we'd like to tell ourselves it isn't happening, it is. Canaan's story gripped me from the moment I read it, not just because it's a horribly tragic story, but because it's also my story. Only my story had a better outcome, because I survived. I never tell my story, and I've certainly never posted a video about it on YouTube. But hearing about what happened to little Cannon took me right back to what happened to me and made me think that maybe it's time. Please understand that I in no way think my story is more tragic than Cannon's. I just feel okay telling it for the first time in forever because Cannon's story, I don't know, inspired me. I don't know why, I just do. Well, for the second time anyway, I just told my niece when I decided to do this video because she listens to my videos and I didn't want to shock her. My nieces and nephew don't know because they weren't born yet when it happened and it wasn't a pleasant story to share. See, my mind has a desperate need to make sense of things, and when senseless things like Cannon's murder happen, my mind goes into overdrive trying to figure out what happened. What did everybody miss about this guy? Were there any signs that he was dangerous, etc.? And when my mind can't get anywhere with it, like right now, I guess it wants to assign a higher purpose to it. Like, he was too good for this world, and maybe his story was meant to bring healing to many, to bring healing for me. I know it might sound crazy, but that's how I think. And the fact that his story drew mine right back to the surface, along with the fact that I never dealt with it properly, has always reinforced that idea with me. Canaan's story is helping me find the courage to finally let my story out instead of stuffing it back down like I have for so long. He's giving me the strength to let it sit on the surface so I can deal with the memory of it and all the feelings that came with it. I feel like he's giving me permission to free myself from all the pain I've held on to for so long. Canon Hinnant was a precious 5-year-old little boy who tragically lost his life and is bringing healing to mine. Here is my story. I was 16 years old and I went on a bike ride with a friend. When it got dark out, we rode back to her house to drop her off, and I left to ride home alone. Thank God she went home when she did, because as soon as I turned off her street onto a main road that was well lit, so I know I was visible, everything just went crazy. I didn't get very far, and it happened so fast, I didn't comprehend what was happening. Suddenly I heard loud booms and glass breaking, but I don't know if it registered that they were gunshots. I just knew that they were close because it scared me. It was so loud. And there were so many. I think I must have thought it was firecrackers. I don't know. Before I had time to react, I saw a window in the building next to me shatter. And the next thing I knew, something hit me in the head so hard I felt like my head was going to explode and I was on the ground. I had no idea what happened. Okay, spoiler alert. If blood makes you squeamish, you'll want to click off now. It's crazy how it happened so long ago, but I remember like it just happened. So anyway, I'm on the ground. My head is killing me, and I remember I could barely see. I rubbed my eyes, and I was soaking wet. My hands were full of blood. It was just running down my face. I couldn't even touch my forehead because it hurt so badly, so I had no idea how badly I was injured. This happened before cell phones were ever a thing, so I couldn't call for help. There was no one around, and I was bleeding pretty badly. I knew if I didn't get back to my friend's house for help, I was probably going to bleed out right there. So somehow I got up, but I remember feeling so dizzy and sick. I used my bike to hold myself up and headed back to my friend's house. I remember being terrified to move because all I could hear was a loud ringing in my ears, and I couldn't tell if things were still booming and breaking around me. I swear I had a guardian angel with me that night because I made it back. I remember ringing their doorbell and someone opening the door, but that's the last thing I remember about getting there. They said I passed out. I guess this is where I should end the video. Long story short, I was shot in the head that night. By whom? I still have no clue. But I did have a guardian angel with me that night because the surgeon told me that I was very lucky to have survived. My forehead was torn open and the bullet was lodged in my skin. It never penetrated my skull, although it did leave a nice dent. The doctor told me that it entered just millimeters from my temple, and if it had hit me there, I probably wouldn't be here. Back then, plastic surgery, or whatever they did to me, wasn't as good as it is today. Over time, I guess it's become less noticeable. I mean, nobody ever asked me what happened to my head, and I guess I'm so used to it, I forget it's even there. But recently, I took a selfie to post on social media, and after I posted, I could see it clear as day. The crater in my head, the skin graft scar, or whatever it is. I was tempted to delete it, but then I thought, it happened. Stop acting like you can change that. So I didn't delete it for a while, and I was pretty proud of myself for that. That's part of the reason why I don't like to film myself. A small part, but part. If you stayed with me this long, thank you. You listening to my and Cannon's stories means more to me than you know, because I want you to know the impact he's having on my life. Dealing with something tragic that you've suppressed for so long is not easy. Here's a tip. Buy stock in Kleenex. You'll make a quick fortune off of me right now. So, here's where I get real with myself about the fact that you're probably scratching your head, wondering why I never dealt with the shooting when it happened. Well, because nothing ever got dealt with in my family that I grew up in. Nothing except for the things that my father thought were important. And because he wasn't really a father, he was more like just a person who provided for us. Me getting shot and almost killed wasn't important enough for him to be bothered with. He never even went to the hospital. So, it got swept under the rug. No police investigation, no arrest, no trial, no counseling for me, no support dealing with it. Just, it happened. You survived. Get over it. Oh, and my favorite? You shouldn't have been there. If you were home where you belonged, it wouldn't have happened. I can't believe I'm telling you all this. It sounds so awful to hear myself saying it. And I keep thinking I should end this video. But then I look at Cannon's little face, encouraging me to go on, to do this, for me. The woman who raised me, who I don't consider to be a mother either, did show up at the hospital, but not because she cared. She showed up to do her obligatory act like I care for the sake of show. She had to. Keeping up appearances was very important to the people who raised me. We had to look like the perfect family so no one would know who they really were. And my friend's mom was at the hospital with me, so it would have made her look really bad if she didn't make an appearance. I mean, what would people say? That was all she ever cared about. What everyone else thought. Not her kids, strangers. Strangers were more important. I'll never forget when I got home from the hospital and she told me she was angry with me for not going to her best friend's house for help instead of my own friend's house. Because I guess I was just as close to her house. I don't know. I guess I wasn't really thinking clearly, since I had just been shot and I was trying not to bleed to death. But she made sure I knew how upset she was that she had to deal with my friend's mom at the hospital instead of her friend. And they were going to talk. They were going to tell people what happened. And she really hoped that I didn't get blood all over her house because she didn't want anyone talking about us. No, we can't have that. I was so selfish. I didn't even think of what the family would go through. If I had just gone to her friends, she could have contained it. Nobody had to know. It was our business, no one else's. And family business stayed in the family. It was never spoken of outside the family. They were fiercely private, and I had created a shit show that they were going to have to contain. I was so selfish. I must have done it because I wanted attention, they said. And to top it off, this happened about a week before I was supposed to stand up in my sister's wedding. So I was not only told that they didn't need this because they were already busy dealing with the wedding, but that I shouldn't even get to stand up in the wedding because my head was bandaged and I would look bad in the pictures. That came from the people who raised me, not my sister. My older sister's 5 years older than me, and she was kinder and more caring about the situation than my own mother was. She told me I didn't have to stand up in her wedding if I didn't want to, but she hoped I would. So I did, bandage and all. And I did ruin her pictures, but she didn't care. But to pay me back for being an attention whore that night that I got shot, I was told to tell everyone at the wedding that I banged my head on something rather than the truth. That way I couldn't steal all the attention from my sister. So after a while, trying to remember who I told what started to become too difficult, and it was just easier not to talk about it at all. Besides, the parents didn't care that I was afraid to go outside anymore or that I didn't want to go back to school. They told me to deal with it, so I did. I learned to cover it up and act like it never happened. It was easier that way. So now you're wondering if I'm a monster because of the way I was raised. I can proudly say that I'm not even close. See, I was blessed with the ability to understand that something was very wrong with them at a very young age. I always knew that things weren't right, and I never wanted to be like them. So I used them as an example of what not to do. If anything, I tend to overlove, if that's possible. I try to love people the way I wanted to be loved. And if I love you, you'll know it. How did I learn to be this way? Believe it or not, by watching my friends' parents. I was fortunate enough to have friends with parents who were excellent examples of what good parents look like. And I understood that just because I could never relate to how my friends' parents treated them, that there was something there. I was always so fascinated by it. Sad, I know, but I was. They always felt so right, while mine always felt so wrong. Over time, I developed a collection of defining moments in my life when the actions of my friends' parents changed me and taught me what love was. One of those moments happened the night I was shot. I remember waking up in the ambulance and feeling someone squeezing my hand. I looked up and saw my friend's mom leaning over me, crying, saying, "I'm staying with you. I'm not leaving you." It's crazy, I can still hear her. Funny what our minds remember, isn't it? Anyway, I remember wondering why she was there. She barely knew me. My parents would have never done that. And then I saw blood on her shirt, and all I remember thinking was how much trouble I was going to be in for ruining her shirt. When I read that Cannon's dad saw his neighbor pacing back and forth with the gun, and he wanted to go after him, but he wouldn't leave Cannon, I cried. That was what my friend's mom did for me, bloody shirt and all, and she wasn't even mad. If my dad had been there, he wouldn't have touched me, and my mother would have justified it by saying that I couldn't have expected him to because I was covered in blood. So selfish. No, I'm nothing like they were. I'm the exact opposite. Come after me all you want. I can take it. But go after someone I love, and may God help you, because you're going to need it. Cannon's mom is in so much pain. I read somewhere that she said she will burn the world down to get justice for her son, and I'm with her. If they do not get justice for Cannon, I'll be there handing her the matches. Okay, now I really need to end this video. Again, regardless of your opinion regarding this case, please don't bother commenting to me about race. Until we know for sure that it was racially motivated, I don't want to hear it, and I won't post or comment. Why? Because I want to honor Cannon's memory, not tarnish it with assumptions easily made based on skin color. Because, let me tell you something you already know, evil comes in all colors. Thank you, Canon, for giving me the strength and the courage to finally tell my story. You are my angel. Rest in peace, precious boy. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate the time you spend with me. I know I need to finish my videos on the Chris Watts case, and I will soon. The anniversary of the deaths of his victims just passed, and I didn't want to dedicate any time to him when the focus should be on remembering his family. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you on my next video.